video is all about participatory research methods, and I think a lot of you have heard about rapid rural appraisals, where you go into a community and you gather through different methods and tools, you gather new information about rural life and rural resources. There could also be participatory learning and action methods, where if you are trying to undertake teacher skills and digital literacy, you regularly engage with the teachers to kind of send you exercises, and based on the learning of that, you take action, make changes on the program. There is the participatory rural appraisal, where we'll be looking at a couple of tools where you map out community resources with just being a facilitator, and the communities think about and provide a narrative to their contexts and lives. Also, a very interesting new school of thought is about participatory statistics. Now, most times we look at participatory research as a qualitative tool. What participatory statistics is now talks about is to actually use this qualitative information, or use different methods to get you statistics and quantified information to answer your research questions or get data on indicators. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at a host of different methods, and at the end of this session, I hope you can identify a few that, in addition to your surveys, you would be able to use in the field while collecting data. So you just want to kind of tell us or share a small anecdote of why we at Fourth Wheel believe that participatory methods are extremely important and should be included in any sort of evaluation study or any monitoring, evaluation and learning framework. We were undertaking a needs assessment study with construction workers, and we had gone in a construction site, and we had estimated that the main needs would be toilet facilities, water facilities, improved housing, and we had these list of questions. We started asking questions based on these anticipated needs of the community, and we got our results, which said, yeah, definitely they need better sanitation facilities, they need better water. We then decided to do a participatory exercise of we're going to be talking about it, of hypothetical budgets, wherein we got 50 construction workers living in that complex, and asked them to form groups of 5, and we said, okay, imagine you are you are the supervisor of this space, and you have certain funds to invest. What are the top 3 things you would invest in to improve your living conditions at this construction site? So we gave them a hypothetical budget of 10,000 rupees and asked them to identify 3 key needs. What was very interesting is that across all the 10 groups, the top thing that cropped up was fumigation drives, because there was a mosquito menace, and we had never accounted for just fumigation drives. We thought we should look at the larger things like water and sanitation and maybe health camps and housing, but they said a lot of issues, or rather most of the problems they face is related to the mosquito menace. And so this points out that a lot of times our research is full of our perceptions and our ideas, and is very extractive. We only hear about things that we want to hear about, and do not really involve the communities that we work in to identify issues, challenges, and also solutions to improving the status quo. So with that in mind, I think what we could start discussing now is about these different methods where we actually hear the voices of people we work with and for. So the first one is cooperative interviewing. Now, in our example or our case study that we've been looking at through this program, a good way to do cooperative interviewing is to make different stakeholders play the part of each other. So students become teachers and teachers become students, and they could ask each other questions on, what do you think of, what do you think of the computer class that was done, and why do you think learning outcomes are not being achieved as much, or what challenges do you face in learning. So what this tends to do is it gets people to talk from a different perspective, as well as it really is not extractive. We don't have a set agenda, but we're just telling them, okay, we put this digital infrastructure program in place. We've trained teachers. Now we want you to ask questions which will assert an impact of this program. The next method is priority ranking. So again, we could kind of list out all the different outcomes, wherein we are saying what leads to learning outcomes of students, and we ask students to list all the things that impact their learning outcomes and then prioritize them. So maybe we didn't consider that students cannot reach high school, and hence their aspirations are very low and they feel it's quite pointless to study. There could be multiple things that come up when you ask stakeholders or participants themselves to come up with certain, or to answer these broad overarching questions. Temperature gauge is also used as a very visual feedback tool. So it's simple. You can draw a large temperature, a thermometer on a chart paper, and you ask different participants to come, and there will be certain statements that you say in a group. So you could say that this program has increased computer usage among teachers. And students come up, and if they agree with the statement, they put a sticker or on the levels of agreement with particular statement. So do you completely agree? Are you hot to the statement? Are you not very clear? Do you not agree to the statement? So basically you're getting them to think about these different statements. You could also ask them to say that, okay, what are the key outcomes of this program, and let's see how many of you agree to these statements. I already explained hypothetical budgets, but it's basically giving your stakeholders the power to make decisions on where they would spend money or where they see more value for money. So in this example, it could be that you give students or you give teachers some sort of a budget, and you say that if we had to increase learning outcomes of students, in which aspects would you really invest your money in? And you can match how much money or the percentage allocations they would give to different activities and what you've done, and kind of find similarities. Sorry. I'm so sorry. Find similarities in their allocations and yours. The next one is card sorting, where once again, if you are trying to get an understanding on the challenges faced while using digital infrastructure, you could have a bunch of cards, and teachers could sort it out as to what are the key challenges, which are seen by them as solutions. So, and then of course, drive discussions around these different cards and visual tools that you have. The next one is photo voice. Photo voice is where we could ask students to take pictures of the changes that have happened in their school since this program has started. And we've used this a lot with a lot of our studies, where for example, we used it once to look at the girl attendance in schools or girls' activity when they have safe menstruation practices. So, we saw so many different pictures coming up, so many people kind of spoke about the changes in a visual form through photos. Similar to photo voice, you can also use the medium of videos, where you can ask teachers to take videos of themselves in a normal chalk and talk method, to actually doing the same course through technology to see what kind of changes happen in student classroom engagement, in students asking questions, etc. So using videos to actually kind of outline the change that they see as part of the program. Visual archive is great because you could also use this as a tool to look at to do regular check-ins based on the content you are providing. So if you teach teachers simple modules on using the computer and taking a class with the computer and then doing student assessment tests, and you've taught them something, you can ask teachers now, can you visually draw? Can you just draw all the changes or all the things you've learned? And then what you do is you take a large table and you put all the different pictures that the teachers have drawn, and everyone walks past this table and starts looking at the different kinds of changes people have experienced, and again drives the conversation towards more engagement, more conversations, and definitely giving you way richer perspectives on the impact of your program, or also on the implementation of your program. The next one is dotmocracy. Dotmocracy is again something similar to temperature gauge, but you can also use it as you have different statements. You could have different stakeholders and you ask them to put different colored stickers on the statements they agree with, how much they agree with it, or which stakeholders contribute more, which stakeholders need more help. So again, it's a visual voting tool to get people together to talk about implementation and changes. Body mapping is usually used a lot in gender studies, where women are asked to or even men for that matter, are asked to list down family members and which body part they represent and why. And it's great to have two groups, one of men and women, doing this, because before the intervention you'll always see the women are more the hands and the hardworking sort of personas, whereas men are always looked at from the head or the feet. So, and once you do these gender interventions, it's excellent and it brings out so much depth of information and as to how they start seeing or perceiving themselves, and or men perceiving women. So it's a great tool to get people to visualize certain aspects of your program and then have discussions with them themselves. We also can use scorecards. So when it comes down to listing all the different activities, you have different stakeholders, sitting at a table, you're telling them what you did, what challenges you had, and for them to rate the different elements of your program. Or also to say that, how would you rate digital infrastructure, or even make comparisons between digital access in your school, digital access in your peers' school. So a lot of questions can be asked, and you have scorecards, which again, you can quantify this information. Role plays are similar to cooperative interviewing, but one way you could use it is when you are looking at use this for a career awareness program. So we asked them to do a role play of where they see themselves in 5 years before the program. They were all in class 11, and you could see, across the room of 50 people, you could see all women, all girls were teachers, and all boys were policemen, mostly. After the career awareness sessions, we saw there was a plethora of different careers that people were enacting, and as well as teachers realized that this does have an impact on the way they think, the kind of information they have, and it did get us really talking about the change in children, career awareness, and aspirations. Picture talk. This is something where you have taken pictures across during the program. So you could be taking, a teacher teaching through the computer, a student yawning in class, or a bunch of students across a computer, and you show these pictures to your stakeholders and ask them to describe what they see. Ask them to say, do they attribute this change or Do they see this improving, and how? So you're using concrete evidence or documentation of your program to get people to talk about the changes that you have documented. Buzz groups, again, could be, you could make a girls buzz group, you could make a boys buzz group, teachers, younger teachers, older teachers, basically to get similar groups of stakeholders together to have discussions around things that really matter to them relating to your program. You could also have visualized questionnaires. We usually use this for persons with disabilities, younger students, not very, maybe not very well educated respondents, to actually show them different pictures and ask them where they're in agreement with, what they think about this, and be quite creative in the questionnaires we use. There's also a tool called problem tree, where if we're trying to solve the problem of poor learning outcomes, then you're getting different stakeholders together to actually identify the problem and then work upwards to finding solutions to this. Some of these tools can be used for program design. Some of them can be used as monitoring. Some of them can be used as evaluation tools. And they each have to be really contextualized to the target audience and the geographies or the programs that you're operating in. But they can definitely give very rich and valuable data. We can also look at the reflect tool, where you basically ask, say for example, teachers to look at themselves, or even community leaders to look at their communities, or school principals to look at their school, and take an outside external perspective to the school and reflect on what changes are needed, what changes need to be brought about, what is currently existing, and all of that. Cow interview, I think it's used a lot in agri-allied, but this is about animal health and actually looking at making your farmer talk, take the persona of a cow or of their cattle and see whether they require more veterinary services, do they have sufficient food security, all of that. Again, for your respondent to really step out of their comfort zone and take other personas and put on other thinking caps for a larger perspective on things. Transect walks is a very common tool used in participatory rural appraisals, where you, rather than asking questions and going with a checklist of school observations, you ask students to take you through the school and show you what's great about the school, what's not so great, or you go with community leaders and ask them to take you for a walk in the village or in the slum to show you again what they see as core aspects of their community. Map of exchanges is more to look at, if you remember in module 1, we spoke about stakeholder interconnectedness and outcomes interconnectedness. So when you're looking at a certain, in our case, digital infrastructure and learning outcomes, we will start looking at all the different stakeholders, all the different outcomes that need to happen or are happening to bring about our desired change. Trend lines, these could also be used as visual tools to see, to showcase to your stakeholders, whether it's students or principals or teachers, saying that since our program's been here, these are the kind of trends we see. However, we see positive trends here, not so positive trends here. What can be done about it? Immersion is something that I always motivate people to do, especially when starting a program. So if you know, most of the time when we go in for data collection or is during our office hours, right, from 10 to 5. But a lot happens in communities that we work with before 10 o'clock and after 5 o'clock. So immersion basically asks researchers to go and live in communities for a few days so that they get, a 24-hour picture and perspective on the communities they're going to be working with. The map of access to natural resources is again quite similar to the concept of community mapping, where you look at, water and sanitation resources, natural resources, housing conditions dependent on like forests, etc., etc. So you're looking at communities to see what natural resources exist, what's important for them, and what differences you can make. In line with your map of exchanges is your conflict analysis matrix. So we might say that, like we've spoken about before, we might say we put in computers, we train teachers, but then there are certain conflicts where students do not have the one-on-one time with computers, or where the principal is not motivating teachers to undertake classes with the infrastructure in place. So really identifying what kind of conflicts or risk management that needs to be done before implementing a program, or even to improve a program. Linkage diagram is focused on understanding the interconnectedness of outcomes, that if you're working on learning outcomes, maybe you should bring in a component of health, maybe you should bring in a component of community engagement, etc. So finding all the different linkages, which is also somehow very, very good while developing a theory of change with different stakeholders. Finally, I just had to put this in, but a good way to also you can make indexes and grids, but have certain, in this example, it's the functional sanitation ladder, where you're going from different levels. So you're starting with open defecation, and then you're moving on to toilet pits, and then you're going into community toilets. So there are different levels that you need to achieve. It's not like learning outcomes is, everyone's getting 100 on 100. So we could also build these different levels of impact, which then could be created into visual tools or participatory tools to get stakeholders to deliberate on and really understand what the program is contributing to. So I think before moving into data management systems, it was important to provide context on that you can be creative in your data collection. You should ensure that your data collection process is not just extractive and top down, but you are also using new tools, creative tools, to get participants to provide you with data. Thank you.